Well, I can tell you something, baby. Right now, we've got about 5 minutes left before we leave from point A to point B. We got about 5 minutes left before we roll in that hole, baby. You better get right because you got all night to get it done. You got about 5 minutes. All right, baby. Time to roll. Time to roll to the hole. We rollin'! Yeah! This is what we do and why we do it. And nobody does it any better than we do. It's your night, your fight, so get it right, baby.
Wow. What an amazing introduction. BJPenn.com radio here again. What's up, George?
Yeah, man, that's how it's done.
That's how it's done right there.
My man,
That's
Burt
right.
Watson. And every time I hear that, I get pumped up. I must have said I must have listened to that probably like 10 times in a row. Once we had it done, it was just awesome, man. Thank you, Burt.
Yeah, thank you, Bert, and a big shout out to Josh Chastain, the audio engineer that put that together. I sent him the sound clip of Burt Watson's voice when Bert was on the show with us last week. Josh is the brother of one of our contributors, one of our writers, one of our lead guys on BJPenn.com, Jake Chastain, and he hooked that little soundbite up for us. So thank you very much, Josh. Thanks, Jake, for setting that up, and thank you, Bert, for throwing down the soundbite for us.
I told you guys it was going to be good. You know that one. We planned that one out, and I think it came out awesome.
It did. It came out fantastic.
What's been going on, man?
Nothing much, brother. We got a pretty good show tonight. I'm not sure about our first guest coming through, though. We're supposed to have Chris Lytle on, but I haven't heard from Chris, so I don't really know what's the deal with there.
Yeah, it's weird. You were just telling me off the air. You had talked to him like extensively yesterday, and been texting back and forth, but then he's been MIA today. So you never know. He's a politician, man. These guys are busy.
And he's a firefighter, dude. Maybe there's a forest fire somewhere.
I don't know. He saves lives, so that is true. Yeah, it would be good. It'd be good if we, and hopefully we get him on, because got some interesting things to talk to Chris about.
I want to know if he ever plans on coming back to action. That's really what I want to know.
Yeah. I was kind of curious what he thinks about the way the division is sitting right now.
Yeah, I know. Totally changed from when he left, and he didn't even leave that long ago. But when he did leave, he was right there on the top, He was right there in the top of the division, vying for a title shot of his own. He decided to retire so he can focus on his political career. And we haven't really heard much from Mr. Lytle since.
So many new names in the mix now, huh? Like at 170, like I hadn't really thought about it until I saw the lineup, and I was thinking, wow, Chris hasn't even been gone for very long, and there's all sorts of new guys in the division, especially the UFC welterweight division specifically. Like even one of our guests today, Tyron Woodley. He making a name for himself. We had Tarek Safadine on the week before, and another name that wasn't there when right when Chris left.
Yeah, and you got guys like who's the top of that division? Jake Ellenberger and Carlos Condit.
You have your Nick Diaz, you have Condit, obviously you have the Kingpin GSP, you have a lot, Hendricks. There's just a whole wealth, and Hendricks has been in the division, but he really came into his own kind of after Chris left.
Yeah, he did. That's crazy. Like all the top guys really weren't really in the top when Chris was there. I'm not really optimistic that he shows up tonight, but it's a possibility. You mentioned our other guest we have, which is scheduled within the hour, is Tyron Woodley. He's coming off an impressive knockout. Seriously, blew my mind the way he just completely destroyed Jay Heron in his UFC debut.
Yeah. I kind of had high hopes for Heron too, but that just shows you Woodley. He meant business, man. I think may have surprised some people with his knockout power. People kind of have coined him as a wrestler, and I think he proved. He's definitely proven his that he's got some power to deal with too. He's got some striking, and we'll see. We'll see how he stacks up. He's got a tough test, man. Jake Shields is no joke,
Yeah,
and
no,
so
no joke.
we'll see. And that's a totally different type of matchup. Like Heron is a well-rounded fighter, but Jake is what they refer to as a specialist. He's, I mean, phenomenal on the ground. He makes other black belts look really bad on the ground, and we'll see how Woodley's, we'll see how he deals with that. If he's going to keep the fight standing, Jake's a great wrestler too. It would be a huge win, as big of wins Woodley's had in his career. This would undoubtedly be the biggest feather in his cap.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. I mean, it's funny to say that though, because this guy was the Strikeforce welterweight champion. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but man, it's just like when you think about Jake Shields' career, and and we've had him on the show before, and you have a long history with Jake. You know as well as I do is that he's been beating top guys for a very very long time, and a lot of the guys that are at the top of the division now, he's beaten,
That's right. That's
and
right.
you know, uh, it's going to be a really, really, really tough test for Woodley, but it's one that he can definitely do. And if he pulls it off, man, it is a huge, huge win. The real question at that point is where does Jake Shields go from there? Kind of going back and forth through weight classes and things like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
Woodley would.
he's coming off an athletic suspension.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's coming off the athletic suspension. Also, it's definitely going to be a tough test. We also have and it's like he's a regular now, but we got Josh Thomson back on, and really it's because it's just the way things have unfolded. There's actually a timeline for Josh Thomson. If anybody isn't aware of what I'm talking about, we had him on the show before he fought Nate Diaz, and as soon as we got him on the show, he really did he really did make it sound like, I haven't had the best camp, and and perhaps he didn't, but he really almost sold me like, hey, this is going to be a tough fight, and I don't know whether I think I'm the underdog in this fight. So, he kind of led us down that path, and then he had this phenomenal performance against Nate Diaz. He put on a tremendous showing, and after that, we had him back on. Then we get Nate on. Nate has the explosive interview he has that was all over the internet, all over the forums, and Nate had some interesting things to say, and I can't wait to hear Josh's response to some of the lady sounds, lady noises, and all sorts of things that he was saying.
That's the whole thing. When you do this for long enough, you become kind of friends with some of these fighters, and we gave Nate Diaz a whole entire hour after we interviewed Josh the day before. We interviewed Josh Thomson after he won. He was as high as a kite. He was so ecstatic over his UFC debut against Nate. Then Nate called us during the broadcast and wanted on the line. We scheduled him for the very next day for an hour. We gave him this whole hour segment where he completely trashed Josh. Last week our schedule was completely full, but for this week we got Josh on because really we owe it to Josh to get him back on and kind of share his side of the story. Nate Diaz disputed the stoppage. He said Josh would never fight him again. There's no way. And we kind of have to we owe it to Josh Thomson to give him his time to rebut the Nate Diaz hour-long special we did. So that's why we have him on tonight, and I think that all the listeners are going to be very happy with what Josh has to say. I'm sure he's going to remain classy, but don't think he's going to bite his tongue. I'm sure he's going to have some things to say about what Nate said in that interview.
Yeah, that was a really truly. I don't think anybody's gotten more in depth with Nate Diaz than we did, and it wasn't just Josh. He talked about everybody. He talked about Ben Henderson. He talked about
Anthony
Anthony
Pettis.
Anthony
And Mr.
Pettis.
Pettis will be on with us next week, I believe. So we'll get Anthony's side of the story too. Right now, George, I don't want to keep this man on hold too long. He's on the line right now, listening to us yammer back and forth. It is Chris Lights Out Lytle, former UFC welterweight turned politician. Chris, are you with us?
I'm here, fellas. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for coming on tonight.
No problem. You guys can continue to talk about whatever you want. I was just enjoying listening to what's going on there. It's pretty interesting to hear people going back and forth like that. And, man, I'd like to listen to hear what's being said. So.
Right on. Yeah, it's interesting, because in the world of mixed martial arts, a lot of fighters have to market themselves and create these rivalries in order to get the fights that they want and to keep their name in the spotlight. So we're not drama seekers, but in the past couple of weeks we've had some drama unfold on our airwaves between a couple guys. So it's been a pretty interesting storyline for us.
That's good. I mean, that's real good, and it's kind of interesting to me. Sometimes I don't know. Maybe some guys need that kind of thing to motivate them and to help them and get them going to really want to fight this guy. But I've always, found that it doesn't matter what you're going to say; it matters what you're going to do. And you can say, I mean, you're the best fighter in the world, but you're going to have to get out there and prove it at some point. And I feel like there's less pressure on you. You start talking a big game, you're adding a little bit more pressure on you, and some people respond well to it and some don't. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing to listen to.
It is. I agree. So tell us right now, let's jump into this interview, Mr. Lytle. What's been new with you? We haven't seen you in the cage. You retired. You didn't win your Senate seat there. But what's been going on with you?
Oh, well, I got a couple things going on. I've been helping train some guys, getting people ready for fights. I'm actually putting on fights now. I have a fight getting ready to come on this Friday, actually. I mean, just the local area, Midwest. I got the Midwest Fight Series that I'm helping out with, and we have another good card coming up this Friday. Like I said, it'll be our third one we've put on, and nothing big right now, but I think our last fight had about 1,380 people at it, and we're looking to get about 1,500 this time. We'd be pretty happy with that. So just trying to build up a show and trying to get people from the Midwest the opportunity to fight to where they don't have to be the guy brought in to lose to the big name guy. So we can try and promote some guys to where they can actually make it to the next level and maybe be on the UFC someday.
Wow, I didn't know that. So these fights are going on in Indiana?
Yeah. So far, all three of our fights have been in the Indianapolis area. So we're looking to probably at some point move out to other areas. But right now, we're just trying to develop a strong, home base right here and get the name out there and let people know that we put on a good fight. And, I'm a fighter first and foremost, so I'm always looking at it as making sure that we're just giving fighters good opportunities and trying to take care of everybody. I never want anybody to say I was told I was going to get this and got something else. Man, I've been fighting so long, I know that happens all the time. I'm going to fight a guy who's 12 and or 2-2. We get there, he's 12-2. Just a lot of stuff like that used to happen in the good old days, and I just know how I always have my mentality about those promoters, and this is definitely not like that. I want to make sure everybody, it can always be a win-win situation where everybody's happy, and if it's not going to be that, I don't want to be involved with it. So.
Oh wow, so. In your opinion, Chris, how important is the regional circuit and the development of talent on that level, the level that you're now in, and developing these?
Hugely important.
Yeah.
It's hugely important because what you see a lot of is a couple different things. You have certain people who put on fights and try and get their guys fights where they put them in with 9 or 10 tomato cans, and then they go undefeated and they go to the next level, which is the UFC, and they're begging the UFC to put them in there. And then they go against a very good guy because they continue to call Joe Silva and ask him, and they go in there and they get embarrassed in the first round or whatever, and then that guy's pretty much mentally done. He was built up to be this great thing. In his mind he was, and then he went against real competition, he gets beat up. That's kind of hard for a lot of people to deal with. So some guys like that, they can't deal with that, and then they're pretty much done. Or you have the opposite, where you have really tough fighters who just are always put in against other tough fighters, and they don't develop right, and they develop the mentality of more of an opponent as opposed to a prospect. So that happens a lot in the Midwest that I see, and so we're just trying to change that and develop guys the right way, get them, some easy fights and toughen the fights up, make them a little bit tougher, and then make them a little bit tougher, because I don't want to send anybody into the next level without them having a good chance of winning.
So let me ask you this, Chris. You know, since we're talking about developing fighters and getting them to the next level, one of the main platforms for that for the past few years has been the Ultimate Fighter. When you look at that platform as far as developing fighters, a lot of guys came to that show with very little to no experience at all, and then went on to UFC careers. Some of them people from different athletic backgrounds. You know, Brendan Schaub didn't have much experience. Neither did Matt Mitrione. They seem to do
Yeah.
okay in the UFC. Is that still a viable platform for to develop guys and bring them right into the UFC, or is it more just to build names up at this point?
Well, I think it absolutely is. But, I mean, you look at a couple of those guys you're talking about, Brendan Schaub, Matt Mitrione, phenomenal athletes. I mean, professionals in different areas before they became here. So, I mean, it's hard to compare that to your typical person. I mean, you have an elite level athlete, and if you put them and engulf them in a training system for mixed martial arts, they're going to be successful eventually just because they're so athletic and they have that work ethic and they know what it takes to be successful. They're going to be successful no matter really what you do with them at that point. The other people, you're not really quite as sure. I mean, if you have somebody who's not quite NFL level athlete, you know, I'm not real sure if they're going to pick it up as quickly and just immerse them in that. But you know, it definitely has. If you got an athletic person who has a good work ethic, I think the UFC, the Ultimate Fighter, is a good way. It's like cramming several years of training into a short period of time, in my opinion. It's like a jump start program that really gets people in there. If they can, from there, get to with the right type of training camp that's training kind of is suited for them, I think that's a huge benefit to them. That can really, you know, take 2 or 3 years off the time it might take for them to normally get to that level.
Do you get a chance to watch a lot of the events still, or I know you're busy with a lot of different things, and you had a lot of political stuff going on, and you know you have a family and you're training guys. Do you still get the chance to sit down and watch a lot of the fights, or even seasons of the Ultimate Fighter and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I have some guys who I'm still trying to help train. I still try and get with Matt whenever he has a fight coming up and try and corner him when I can. And you know, I'm absolutely still following it. And I have you know, luckily for me, it's usually Saturday nights fights are on, and you can usually find time to sit down and watch the fights or go somewhere and watch them with a few buddies. But you know, obviously my life is a little busier right now than it's not all about fighting. I have other things going on, but man, I'm always going to find time to watch the fights.
What do you think about the new season with now they're going to have both males and females living in the house? How do you think that one's going to work out? It sounds like it's going to be I don't know how that one's going to work out.
Man, that's gonna be chaotic and crazy. You have to imagine. I mean, think of just it's going to be a combination of, you know, the Ultimate Fighter with, I don't know, Big Brother. Maybe what are some of those other shows where they like Hotel Love? I don't know, where people are like going back and forth and dating this guy, and that's my boyfriend. I think it's going to be chaos, man. I think it'll make for some good TV, but I mean, you never know what's going to happen, especially you get a guy, you get a girl out after, you know, the first week. What are they going to do? They got nothing to do but hang out and party. Ooh,
Joe Rogan was saying that he thinks that somebody might end up pregnant. What do you think about that one?
There's no doubt. I mean, I don't know. You know, the good thing about on the show is you can always say, hey, they give you a little list of paper. This is what I want. I want, you know, this type of food, this type of what. Maybe, hopefully those girls are putting down, they want some birth control pills or something. You probably don't want, who knows what's going to happen out there, man. It's going to get kind of, I'm interested to watch it, I'll be honest with you, man. Sometimes, you know, like when they had it on live on those Friday nights, I'll be honest, I didn't watch hardly any of those. It just seemed like Friday nights was a bad night for me to watch. I always had something going on. So I like the idea a lot better since it's not. I've watched a lot more this season than I did the one before. So I'm looking forward to the next one coming up. I don't even know what to think about it. I'm interested to see what happens. So.
Speaking of the Ultimate Fighter, Chris, you know you competed on that show in the. You know, and your season was a little bit different than the rest of the seasons where the winner got a title shot, right? Do you think do you think that they should bring back that concept eventually and try to throw some guys in the house with a lot of experience that could actually be a legit contender and put the grand prize as not just the trophy with the six-figure contract, but a shot at the divisional champ?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was a good idea. And if you look at from my season when it happened, I mean, one guy who was able to win my weight class, Matt Serra, he went out there and he knocked out St. Pierre and won the title. And with the other one, Travis Luter, he went down there and he had Anderson Silva mounted in the first period, and I thought he was going to win the fight. So,
Right.
I mean, the guys did very well when they earned their title shot. So I think it was a good idea, and I think, you know, that they're going to need to maybe mix it up a little bit and come back with something like that. It's been a long enough period, I think. I think the only problem was you had a lot of veterans on that season that I was on, and everybody kind of acted a little different than they do. And I don't know if it was good as TV because we act a little bit more responsible, more mature. We already been there. We understood it a little bit more. You know, I don't think anybody was like pissing anybody's food or, you know, fighting each other outside of it. So I don't know if it's quite as good as TV, but, you know, I think it's a good idea. And, you know, people who truly like the sport would like it.
Let me ask you this, Chris. You haven't fought for the UFC since late 2011.
No.
Are you still close with the guys over at Zuffa, or how far removed are you from that whole scene now? Now that it's been a couple years.
You know, I obviously don't talk with them nearly as much, but you know, when I'm able to go out there and have, you know, Matt's fighting, or if I go to an event and I see him, yeah, it's good to talk to him. You know, I feel like it hasn't been that long when I actually see him and talk to him, and just things are still very good there. You know, I enjoy those guys. I've been around since, you know, I've actually fought UFC before they even owned it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I've been around for a long time, so they know me very well. I know them very well. Just I'm very proud of them to see what they've been able to do with this organization, and you know, I think we have a real good relationship. Obviously, you know, I'm not in the loop right now as much because I'm not around there, except when I'm cornering somebody. So, you know, I don't need to call them every now and again to you know, negotiate anything with them, or they don't need to talk to me about my fighting. So I know they're busy. They have a lot going on. They're trying to really, you know, up the sport and bring it to the next level. So I'm just happy to sit back and watch. But, you know, when I see them, though, it's always a good time.
All right. When you left the UFC, and I have to ask this question. You came off a loss to a win off to Dan Hardy. Prior to that, you had the Ebersol loss in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Which was a fight.
Yep.
Which was a fight he took on short notice, if I'm not mistaken. He was kind of like a late replacement for your original opponent. Things got kind of quirky there.
Yeah.
But prior to that, you know, you had a pretty good run. You beat some top guys. Matt Serra, former champ. You know, you beat Matt Brown, who's making waves in the division now.
Yeah.
Does any part of you want to go back and kind of pick up where you left off, or are you pretty much set in being retired?
I mean, you know, there was always a part of me that didn't really want to retire. It was never the fact that I felt like I needed to retire or I was tired of fighting. It was nothing like that. It was just I got to a point when, you know, right before, you know, I had the Ebersol fight, I hurt my knee, and after that fight, I was able to take, you know, about a month off and just do some rehab that I'd never really done, and I was able to spend some time at home. And I have 4 kids, so I was able to spend some time at home, and I just made some. You're getting older, and I'm realizing just a lot of things. My kids have gotten a lot older since I've actually got to spend a lot of time with them, and then, you know, I realized a lot of things. Just I hadn't been really being very good to my kids. I wasn't around as much. I was always training. I was always gone. I was trying to do too much, and they were really getting neglected. And I mean, my wife was there. My wife was doing things, but you know, they had problems, they had issues. They weren't coming to me for answers. They were going to her, and that kind of really started weighing heavily. I mean, it really started bothering me. And then I signed to fight Dan Hardy, and I remember I went to the gym. The first day I get back to the gym, I was like, I don't really want to be here. And then I was like, okay, it'll get better. And after about 2 or 3 days, I was just like, man, I never didn't want to go to the gym. I always liked going to the gym, and it wasn't the fact I didn't want to train. It was just I felt guilty being gone. You know, I felt like, man, I'm like a man now. I feel like I actually knew I was like abandoning my kids. So I was like, I went back home. I talked to my wife, and I was like, this is going to be my last fight. So I made myself go to the gym every day, and it was a lot easier after I made that decision. This was going to be it. You know, the end was there. And, you know, I still wish I could really fight and I could put the time in, but I just don't feel like I can do that to my family. Just, my kids need me right now, and I just can't just say, hey, you know, it'll be over in a couple of years. Man, my kids are getting older, man. They're going to be gone, and I'll be like, won't even have good memories of them. I feel like I did the right thing, and it was unfortunate, you know, that I had to quit fighting. But if I have the chance to choose between one of the two, I definitely did the right thing.
You know, when I look back at the last portion of your career, man, it's like it doesn't look like.
Chris, are you there?
Hello?
Chris, can you hear me?
I got you. What's going on, buddy?
All right, not much. George, are you back on the air, sir?
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
still here. What I was asking, Chris, is that your skills, it's not like your skills diminished. A lot of guys retired because, well, they were suffering a lot of knockout losses, things like that. But your situation was kind of like similar to we had Kenny Florian on the air a few weeks ago. Your skills are actually getting better. You're finishing guys. Awesome submission skills. How much more difficult was it knowing that you're still getting better in all these areas, and you weren't? It's not like you were a washed-up fighter or anything like that.
Yeah, well, that was the hard part, you know. With even and I can think of even a year ago, even not I still feel like I'm getting better. I go to the gym a couple times a week now. It's a lot easier. I can go I'll be able to go during the day when my kids are at school, or just work out at certain times when they have activities, and I can still make it to the gym, a couple of times a week, and I still feel like I'm actually getting better than I ever was. I just, my knowledge is there, and I haven't slowed down quite as much physically, as I might have thought. I'm almost 39, but I feel fantastic. I'm taking good care of myself, so that makes it difficult, And but then again, that's kind of the good point to me too. Is I don't want. Whenever I talk to my boxing coach, he's like, "Man, you cannot wait till you see I have a problem, because then it's too late. Then you're going to have a lot of bad problems." And he always told me, we're not going to drive this car until the wheels fall off. And I knew what he meant. We're not going to run my body into the ground and say, okay, we're done. And then I'm in bad shape for the rest of my life. So, no matter how much it pains me, man, I still feel like I'm better. I still feel like if I put in an 8-week camp, I could go do a fight right now. I know I could. But once again, if I just took 8 weeks away from my kids and just said, I'll be back in 8 weeks, I would feel pretty guilty about that. I don't think it's something that, to them, I'm thinking they're going to go, hey, he's going back on what he said he was going to do. He's going to spend time with him, and he's not now. So it's kind of it's definitely, I don't know if ironic's the right word, but I feel like I'm still getting better, but yet I'm choosing not to do it. But I think I'm choosing the right way. So.
But when you look at the lay of the land now, it's a little bit different, and not even that much time has we're talking like so much time has transpired since you've left the cage, but really it hasn't been that long, and it seems like there's a whole new wealth of contenders now. Yeah, you said you've been watching, you've been still following things. When you look at the division that you used to play in now, what do you think about some of these new contenders and how things have changed? You know, you have Cons at the top of the division. You have Matt Brown making a run now. You've got guys like Tyron Woodley and Tarek Safadine. So what do you think about all these new guys coming up?
Well, I mean, it's kind of something that I've definitely saw coming for a while and predicting that you're going to get some just tremendous athletes and some very good people who just dedicated their lives to this. And, you know, it's a different level than it used to be, especially when I started fighting, you know, in the 90s. And even when I, you know, came back to the UFC in 2003, you know, you had people who were good at this or good at that and decent all around. But, I mean, now you're just getting phenomenal athletes who are, you know, great at everything and well conditioned, and it's like any other professional sport. So it's a little bit different. I think it's definitely added something to it. So it's pretty interesting to see the evolution of the sport since I started it. So and I think the main thing is just seeing a lot of these guys are just not trained just as a boxer or a wrestler or even cross-trained. I mean, but they're trained like an NFL guy or, you know, NBA, whatever you want to say. They're doing, you know, the plyometrics, they're doing the nutritional aspect, they're doing kind of everything to give themselves the best chance of winning. And you know, that was one of the reasons I know I was trying to kind of match that as much as I could, and it just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication. That's what your life has to be.
So what do you suppose, if you had to attribute why you had such staying power in this business and that you were so successful throughout your career? I mean, you ended your career on a high note. You know, you came off a submission win. You were, you know, you won 5 out of your last 6. What do you attribute your longevity and the fact that you didn't go out getting knocked out all the time, and your skills were getting better? What do you attribute that to? What did you do in your career that made all this possible?
Well, I think a couple of things that I was always willing to work on my weaknesses. I think too many people aren't willing to do that. I wanted to be very well-rounded. I wanted to not have any position that made me think that I was in trouble. Feet, back, you know, if somebody had me mounted, you know, if somebody was trying to hit me in the knees, I wanted to make sure I knew what to do from every position, so I trained at everything very hard. And I tried to just make sure that I was always, you know, hungry and ready for the fight. You know, I had made sure I didn't take off time. You know, I never had, you know, weeks off. I mean, even after a fight, sometimes I'd be like, you have to take a week off, and I'd be in there after a couple of days just shadow boxing, doing a few things, because I never wanted to get out of shape. I was always in there trying to work harder than anybody. I always wanted to make sure that, you know, I never lost a fight because I didn't do everything I could. So it was just a lifestyle I developed, and just that was, I fought for so long, that was kind of all I knew. It was just, you know, you have to eat like this, I have to get this kind of sleep. I had to live like a Spartan lifestyle when need be. So, you know, I think that's the thing. I think I tried to do as much clean living as I could when I was training for fights. And I think that's the best thing you can do is just go in there and work as hard as you can. There's no magic bullet or no shortcuts. You just get to spend hour after hour after hour in the gym and spar round after round after round, and, you know, be willing to humble yourself and listen to, you know, people who are better than you in a certain area, and just try to work on your weaknesses and make yourself as good as possible.
You know, you bringing that up, like sharpening skills and putting your rounds in. There was an interesting stat that I always wanted to ask you, and it popped up for every one of your fights when you walked into the cage. And when you walked in, it shows the stats on the bottom of the screen, and it says Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Now, when I look at your record, now if somebody didn't know, they'd be like, this guy has submitted like 25 people, you know, out of all of his wins. So he probably is a black belt, but you're not a black belt, right? What exactly happened there? How did this stat, like, where did this come from?
I don't know, man. It was funny. They'd always say I'm a black belt, and I remember they called me once and say, Chris, who are you a black belt under? And I was like, I'm not a black belt. I never told anybody it was. I told them I don't even own a gi. And they were like, oh. I was like, I don't have any belt, you know. They were like, you know. I was like, no, I've never I mean, I've trained at jiu-jitsu places, and I've had a couple people say, "Chris, we'll give you a no-gi black belt." And I'm like, I don't want it. You know, I don't want your. I'm not trying to help you out with your promotion for your business. You know, it ain't about that to me. I'm more of a catch wrestler, is the way I put it, as submission grappler, however you want to say it. But you know, I don't fight with the gi, so I don't really plan on wearing one to train with. So I'm not really sure where the whole came up with that. I told them that a while ago. It took them probably another year before they ever, corrected it. So I'm not real sure where it came from. I'm not sure who made it up, but I told them I wasn't, and that's all I can do.
It's just amazing because that's one of the areas in mixed martial arts that a lot of guys you don't see. I mean, I know jiu-jitsu world champions that don't have submissions like that on their record. You know, knee bars, arm bars, guillotines. I mean, these are very, very, very. It's really slick. So. I guess who do you owe all this? Who do we owe this ground skill training to? I mean, did you have a main coach, and why exactly were you so successful?
Oh yeah, I mean, when I started training back in the '90s, I started working with a fellow by the name of Jason Gapsey. You might not have remembered him. He fought in the UFC a couple times before they were bought by Zuffa. But I mean, he was a heavyweight. He was, just a great person, a great teacher. He taught me a lot of things about. When I started working out with him, I was young, I was, early 20s, but he just kind of taught me a lot about how I conduct myself as a person. Just when he'd go to the gym or when people would come in, he was just always so gracious. Hey, come on in, teach us something, do this, and put me in a bad position. And it was weird because, back in 1998, there wasn't too many, especially Lytle, too many jiu-jitsu people, so we would get a good group of people we train with all the time, good wrestlers and whatnot, and be like, okay, we're going to work on the side mount today. This guy's got me side mount. Everybody go get side mount. Let's work on getting out of it. And everybody go work on their own way of figuring out how to get out of it. And then we all come back together and say, how are we getting out of it? And we work on it. And everybody would learn from everybody else. And I'd try something. If it worked for them, great. And if it worked for me, great. And if not, I wouldn't use it. And I totally had to develop my own style, which really helped me later on when I would go against a jiu-jitsu guy. They would go, okay, I got to put my right foot here, move this way, and he was going to move this way. Well, I wouldn't move that way. I'd move the opposite, and it totally threw them off because they had no idea. They were used to being taught move here, 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 and I came up with my own style, so I moved a different way, and it really threw a lot of people off. I remember it was probably 2000. I went in some tournament, I submitted some black belt dude in like 2 minutes, and I looked and was just like, what just happened? Who is he? He doesn't even have a belt, So it was just different. We kind of all developed our own style. I think that's probably one of the best ways you can actually learn. But it took a long time for me to develop my style.
Amazing, Chris. You obviously have an extreme passion for martial arts. I just want to ask you one more time: is the door 100% shut on you returning to action ever, or is there any slight possibility? Because you have a lot of fans.
I mean, I can't say it's always closed, and I've made this comment to him before. I said, hey man, I'm not willing to put in 8 weeks of training, but if you called me and said, hey, I have this possible fight, Chris, somebody backs out and we need you, in a week. We need you in 5 days, we need you here. Oh, I could take it. You know what I mean? There's a couple guys I'd be willing to fight on short notice because I wouldn't have to spend all that time away from my family. And like I'm saying, I still train them. I feel like I'm in good shape right now. I could, and as a veteran, I know how to condition myself to where, I can last 3 rounds. So I always told him, hey, you never know. If you have some last minute, let me know. But that's the only way I can see it happen. If it was, 2 weeks before a fight or something. But you give me 2 months, I don't think I could. I mean, I can't say never. There's a couple possibilities if they said, if Dan or somebody came to me and said, Chris, I would really like if you would do this, take this certain fight for one reason. I say, okay, I could do one, but I'm not planning on coming back long term. I could do something possibly, but I definitely don't see that happening. But you never can tell.
Now, I know that a lot of guys, in my experience, a lot of guys they kind of get addicted to not just the fame, but just the that sense of coming out from the locker room into like a roaring arena, right? Where the fans are cheering for you. Is that
Yeah.
is that something that you miss too, or you know, could you live without it? When you think about maybe I can return, is that something that you look at like, man, I would really like to get that feeling again of coming into the arena?
That is part of it, but I mean, I think for me, I mean that would be definitely part because it's just something. Even when I go, you know, and I'm with you know, Matt or just at an event, I'm like, man, you know, just that smell of the arena and just the feel when it's going on. It's like, man, you know, you kind of think about it and you miss it. You know, you're like, man, this is. I feel like I should be getting ready, and I'm not. You know, I'm like, why would I get ready? I'm not fighting, But to me, I think it's even a little bit more than that. I'm just a very goal-oriented person. There's something to be said about, you know, hearing, hey, Chris, in 3 months you're fighting this guy, and you build, you know, up to 3 months, and you work out, and you have a training camp, and you dedicate everything, and you change your eating habits and your sleep pattern, and you do everything for this one night, and then you know, it's there. And you know, you accomplish your goal. It's like probably the best feeling in the world, you know. And even when you lose, you're like, man, now it just kind of motivates you to do better. So that's a very addictive thing because right now I'm looking, I'm like, there's nothing's coming up in 3 months for me. You know what I mean? It's like I don't have anything to build up for that one night. Where I mean, you can be like, yeah, I want to be a better dad, whatever. But I mean, that's never over. You know what I mean? There's never a night of getting it done, and that's kind of hard to try and find something else to motivate you like that.
Wow. Okay. Well put, Mr. Lytle. Let's talk about life. Not so much martial arts anymore because you're active outside of the cage and outside of your fighting career. A lot of people know that you know you're a firefighter, and in the latest arena you've entered is politics. Are you still working for the fire department out there? And two, is your political career over, or are we going to see vote for Chris Lytle campaigns in the future?
Well, yeah, I am still working in the fire department. That's pretty something that I started doing in 2001. And you know, I never wake up and be like, man, I don't want to go to work. It's always fun going to work, and it's always a good time. You know, it's always good when you can help somebody or have some exciting runs, or even just some fun runs, funny runs. I mean, I have, you know, the other day, you know, there's drunk people are beating each other up, and I get to go, you know. It was just fun. So I don't know how else to say it. So, and I'm making, you know, I'm laughing with the police officers and doing all kinds. You know, I enjoy going to work. So, you know, I can't see me wanting to quit doing that. And as far as my political career, I was, you know, I learned a lot when I ran for state senate this time. I mean, I realized that, you know I'm well known where I live, but when it came to the political career in a primary, you know, the only people who vote in a primary are people who are 60, 70, 80 years old. Those people did not know me. And the ones who did, all they knew is he's that fighter guy. And, you know, they were doing all kinds of negative ads about, you know, saying I beat my kids. And there's all kinds of, you know, nonsense. And if you're an 80-year-old person who doesn't know better and you just hear there's this young guy who might beat his kids, you're not going to vote for him. So it was a three-man race, and I ended up getting second. And but the good news was I went and talked to so many people. A lot of these older people who did vote, you know, they voted for me, and they said I talked to you, and they liked what I had to say. They liked my message. So I definitely envision me running for something in the future. I'm not exactly sure when or what, but I still don't feel we have the right type of people who are making the decisions, and we need to change that, or we're going to have some big problems in the future.
Amazing, amazing. Now, Chris, before we let you go, you've been more than generous with your time tonight. Tell all of our listeners out there, and we'll help support your show coming up this Friday. You said, right? Where do they go?
Oh, cool.
Where do they buy tickets? All that stuff.
Oh, the Midwest Fight Series, where anybody, it's in Indianapolis area. It's on the west side of Indianapolis off Lyndhurst. Fights start at 8 o'clock. Doors open at 6:30. So anybody who's around this area, come on through. I imagine if you're from around here and you're interested in the fight business, you probably know about it already because it's a pretty successful fight the last couple we've had. Just want to keep growing and once again maybe make it to where we could just keep doing good things for the local fighters. My goal is to get a couple guys up to the UFC, and I think we can definitely help facilitate that. I know a couple of guys who are probably well on their way there anyway, but just want to make sure we're getting them the right kind of fights. So come support your local guys, and it's nothing cooler than watching a guy fight here in Indianapolis and a few months down the road seeing him on TV and be like, hey, I saw that guy fight a couple weeks ago.
That's great. That's great. All right, Mr. Lytle. Well, again, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure I speak for all the fans when I say I hope we see you in the cage at least one more time. I'm gonna blast that out and say,
Well, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on here, man. This has been a lot of fun, just hanging out, talk with you guys. Sorry I can't get on there and yell at anybody or try and pick a fight with somebody. But if you need me to do that, let me know. If I can't get mad at somebody or if anybody has a problem with me, you have them call me up. All right?
We'll try to get you to talk nonsense about somebody, Chris. We'll try.
Okay. Or you can talk about me. I'm pretty good at making fun of people and picking out their flaws. So if you have anybody who says anything about me, just let me know. All right, buddy?
Right on. Will do. Thanks, Chris.
All right. It's been good talking with you guys. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Later.
Well, Mr. Matthews.
It's the man. He's such an awesome guy. He's like all MMA fighters. Take note, okay? That's how you conduct yourself outside the cage. Because he really is. He's a good guy, and you can tell he cares about his family a lot. But he always showed up to fight, and man, I had forgotten how successful he was, like before he left.
Yeah.
It's not like he left on a bad note.
No, he was very successful. Like I said, he was right there, man. If he hadn't lost that fight to Brian Ebersol, he was very close to either getting a #1 contender fight or fighting for the title. When he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he fought in the final against Matt Serra, and he was just that one win away from fighting for the UFC title against George St. Pierre. And he lost that fight in a bout that I think a lot of people thought he actually won, So he has a very interesting story. I was hoping to be able to provoke him a little bit more into saying, yeah, I want to fight, yeah, I'm going to fight. That would be an awesome headline. But, dude, how can you argue with the guy who just wants to hang out with his kids? You can't, there's no provocation there. You know what I mean? You can't provoke that. I mean, he's doing the right thing. And, best of luck to him. That's awesome,
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And, like you're saying, he was very successful at the, I want to say the last portion of his career, because he really seldomly lost. I don't think he was ever finished. Has anybody ever finished? He only lost decisions. I believe all of his losses were decisions. I don't remember for sure, but I don't think anybody. He might have, unless at least he wasn't submitted. I know he's never been submitted, and that was really interesting. Like I was saying, that stat came up on the screen every time he fought. It said Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I remember thinking that's funny. It's funny that he never makes any reference to this, and he's got 20-something submission wins. Submitted Dan Hardy.
Dude, he has some good submission wins too. Matt Brown, bro. Matt Brown, holy
armbar?
SHIT. It wasn't just an armbar. Yeah, okay, look at it on paper, it's an armbar, right? But that was like
it was an awesome armbar.
Yeah, it was some otherworldly type of amazement. I mean, that guy flows on the ground when he wants to, and it's incredible.
If everybody thinks I'm blowing this up out of proportion, in MMA, it's very, very difficult to pull off submission wins. I mean, I don't know how many world champions you see, black belt world champions you see, that don't get anything done on the ground. But I'll give you a good. Vinny just fought Phil Davis. You didn't see anything happening like that. But this guy was submitting good guys in MMA. Dan Hardy didn't get submitted by George St. Pierre in 5 rounds.
That's right.
And he didn't make it out of the third with Lytle. Lytle had him wrapped up. So
yeah, he did, dude.
So he was really exceptional, and it was cool talking to him, man. He's such a good guy.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal fighter. He seems like a phenomenal person, I mean, I don't know how far Chris and I go back, but it's at least probably 3 years, maybe longer. And when I was going through my Rolodex trying to put a roster for today's show together, I was like, man, you know what? He doesn't have any fights coming up. You know, he's not just coming off a fight. The guy's retired. He's been retired for almost 2 years. But so what? Let's get Mr. Lytle on the line and let's just get an update from him, see what's new. You know, and I'm glad we went that route tonight.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's a great person to talk to. I kind of wonder what he thinks about or not only say what he thinks, but the contrast of how dirty the MMA business is in contrast to politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how effed up that is, huh? Because I mean, you heard a little bit. I mean, I could sense a little bit of the frustration from with some of the stuff that went on because there was a little bit of a smear campaign against the guy who's squeaky clean.
They
He
said that he
saves.
beat his kids. That's what the senator, like one of the senators of Indiana or whatever the heck.
More like
right?
save kids from burning houses.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the dude is squeaky clean. Like,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
he's a fighter. I mean, okay. It's amazing. You know, the culturally, it's so amazing because over in the Philippines, Manny Pacquiao is like, he runs the joint,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But over here, this guy can't get a spot in the Senate, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's ridiculous. Yeah, man, Chris he's a really good guy, and you know, great father and it was an awesome mixed martial artist. If we don't get to see him again, he had some awesome fights. I'm with you. I hope I at least get one more Chris Lytle fight. I think he's got.
I'm like,
you know?
come on. I'm like, come on. I just wanted to tell him, like, come on, Chris, dude, let's just get in the cage. You know, tomorrow on BJPen.com, I'm gonna run a headline that says, Chris Lytle says if on 2 weeks he can fight back in the UFC. I'm gonna run something like that because honestly, dude, you know, there's been a couple deals we've made running headlines on BJPen.com. The one that comes to my mind most of all is Gabe Rudiger. You remember this guy, the guy that couldn't make weight on BJ's season of The Ultimate Fighter? He was like the big laughing stock and he was the joke, you know?
Yeah.
But prior to him going on The Ultimate Fighter, he fought Matt Wyman in the UFC and he looked really good. He lost that fight, but man, that was a hell of a fucking fight, okay? And he trains, or he used to train at one of my buddy's gyms, Ian Harris. He owns a gym out here in Los Angeles called Punch Kick Grapple, or as they refer to it, PKG. And I hung out over there a lot for a while, you know, and I saw Gabe in the gym a lot, and I was like, man, you know, this guy's impressive. Well, and I always was like, you know, he showed some signs of brilliance again in that Matt Wyman fight. And Ultimate Fighter, he made a joke in the mockery of himself, right? But I was in there. I'm like, Gabe, you know, don't you want to get back in the UFC, bro? What's going on, man? You know, don't you want another crack? You kind of left on a sour note. And he was like, yeah, I really do. I'm like, let's do an interview. Do you know who you want to fight? And he was like, yeah, I want to fight Joe Lazon. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, we have some unfinished business there. So I'm like, dude, frickin', let's do this interview. I'll put it up on the site. I'll send it to Dana White. I'll send it to everybody at the UFC. We'll see what happens. He did this interview. I'm ready to go back in the UFC. I've been training hard. I want to fight Joe Lazon because this and that and blah, blah, blah. What do you know, dude? Within a week, they booked him against Joe Lazon in Boston.
I remember.
You remember that?
It coined the video shoot for Godzilla that Joe Lozon did in response to that.
Yeah, I mean, Joe smashed him. Like, that was one of the biggest ass whoopings I ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Joe's a
threw
beast,
him
man.
Around. Oh my gosh. But point being is, you know, the media is a powerful thing, and if we were able to get Gabe Rudiger a fight with Joe Lazon on the main card in Boston, why can't we get Chris Lytle a fight on 2 weeks' notice? You know, there's going to be some welterweights dropping out. You know what I mean? They're going to be dropping out with injuries or whatever. You know, and they're going to need somebody to fill them. The return of Chris Lytle. That's what I want to see.
It's kind of cool to think back. Who would, you know, if he would have won that fight against Ebersol, who do you think? I wonder at the time who he would have ended up having a fight. Probably John Fitch or somebody, right?
Man, you know what? I honestly kind of recall, and obviously there's so many fights and there's so many fighters, but I really remember him going into that fight, them saying that if he won, he was a possible title shot. I remember that because he was on like a 4-fight win streak. I think that would have been number 5. You know, and like I said, he just narrowly lost the number 1 contender shot against Matt Serra. You know, so he was always kind of right there on the cusp, especially then. That Ebersol fight really for Chris Lytle fans, that was a really sad night because I think Ebersol he took that fight on just a couple weeks' notice. I don't remember who the original booking was, but Ebersol's a crafty guy himself. You know what I mean? And not to take any credit away from that dude, but I don't think Chris prepared stylistically for that kind of fight. And like he said while he was on the show, he had a knee injury a month before that fight, and there were some things there, you know. Um, and he lost.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. You never know, I guess. But he was on quite a tear, and it's not like he was winning decisions either. I mean, he was finishing guys, and that's why I said to him, you know, like, hey, you know, that's why I had to ask how tough it was because it's not a guy who was diminishing. You know, it's just somebody who apparently he walked in the gym and was like, you know, I don't feel like being here. I want to go home and hang out with my family. Haven't seen them a lot, you know, and I kind of, you know, I get that.
You can't argue with it. That's the whole thing. That's what I was saying earlier. You cannot argue with that because here I am. I'm like ready. I'm like ready. Okay, I'm gonna get Chris Lytle to say he wants to fight again. Like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna hype this up. You know what I mean? And boom, he says the whole family thing. And he was missing out on his kids and his, you know, really kind of touching moment when he said, you know, his kids were having problems and they weren't going to him. They were going to their mom. Why? Because daddy's always gone. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, dude, you're doing the right thing. I mean, no matter selfish, you know, no matter how selfish you want to get for fans and us and anybody else, you know, I want to say, you know, Chris Lytle come back to the UFC. I mean, dude, if that's his priority, which is where it should be, that should be his priority, then, you know, more power to him. That's just the way it is. So.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not the only guy that has, you know, voiced that kind of opinion. You know, like I want to be with my kids. It is hard to be a professional mixed martial arts fighter, especially one in the UFC. It's very demanding. When you're a top guy or one of the top guys, it's even more demanding, and you have to devote a lot of time to training, media. There's just a lot of time that goes into it, and it requires you to be very selfish. And if you have children, that's kind of once you have kids, and I'm speaking completely as somebody who's just talks to people who have kids because I don't have any of my own, but they all tell me the same thing, that being selfish is not one of it's something that goes out the window. And so I think that kind of took, you know, his kids kind of took a priority to his career, which I believe he thought he fulfilled everything he wanted. So
here's a stat for you. Before Chris Lytle fought Brian Ebersol, when Ebersol was a last-minute replacement, Chris Lytle was scheduled on that same card to fight Carlos Condit, as we were just tweeted. So that's right, and I forgot about that. So look what happened there, right? Carlos Condit went on to be the interim champion, fight George St. Pierre in the unification bout. Chris Lytle retired after one more fight. So who knows, right?
Hey, you know, and really, you really can never tell how things are going to end up because Dan Hardy, his last opponent, is now effectively retired also.
Yeah, dude. Dan Hardy was on the Joe Rogan Experience today, and I didn't really watch it, but, you know, I figure they'll probably talk and hash it out, but Joey got that interview way before you, buddy. No,
yeah.
I'm not talking trash. Joe's, I mean, you know, his podcast is way better than what we do here, but I'm just saying, like, you know, we already had, like, how long do we have with Hardy? Like a long time, like 40 minutes, an hour or something like that with Hardy, talking about all those drugs and everything, that, you know, the hallucinogens and stuff.
Yeah, ayahuasca and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to go crazy in depth because Joe's podcast is a few hours long.
Yeah, and it's awesome. I just don't ever have time to watch it, you know.
Yeah, you have to. You know, when I usually catch it on flights. Like if we're like 9 times out of 10, I can catch it when I'm going to like meet you.
Right.
If I'm getting on a flight to, you know, or something like that, if I'm going out of town, I can catch them. But yeah, you know, it is a long podcast. But if you haven't caught it, it is a really good podcast.
Yeah.
I haven't specifically heard the one with Dan Hardy that took place a few hours ago, but I'm sure it was really good.
Definitely.
So.
Let's switch gears for a second, George. We got 10 minutes till we get Mr. Woodley on the line, Tyron Woodley. We have a new sponsor on BJPen.com radio. Something I'm very proud of. You know, we've been testing this product for the better part of a year now. It's called Athletic Greens, and you could
It's awesome.
yeah,
It's awesome.
if you go on bjpen.com, you can see their banners. If you go on our Facebook or our Twitter, we've already tweeted out a couple links. This is a deal I just closed for us last week, I think. Man, it was really recent. We just signed on the dotted line, and I couldn't be happier because one, it's our first official sponsor, right, George? Can't beat that.
Hmm.
And two, their product is something I truly believe in. I can't keep it in my house, okay? I get these shipments, and mind you, I don't have to pay for them, which thank you, Athletic Greens guys, for hooking me up all the time. But I have to supply too. I have to supply to myself and my woman, you know, and she loves it. And when she doesn't have her greens, she's like, "What the heck? Call them up, get more greens," you know. And
That's how I am.
it's amazing, right?
I don't know what it is. You know, I think I asked you, like, hey, because your girl, if everybody doesn't know, his girl is a health fanatic, and she's really smart and knowledgeable when it comes to a lot of the things that come in foods and superfoods and greens and things like that. And so I specifically asked you, I was like, hey, what is it? Because I don't believe in a lot of things, okay, and you know how much I train. I train a lot, and I don't believe in a lot of things, and I'll be 100% honest with you. I had no faith in it. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna try it, and I'm just doing it for the sake of it. It's unreal. By the second day, I was like, oh, I could not wait to take more of it. You feel so good. Your energy levels are like through the roof, and you're not taking a bunch of crap.
Yeah, your
You're taking
energy levels are through the roof, but it's not that kind of like 5 hour energy,
jittery.
jacked up, jittery
Yeah,
energy.
smooth.
It's a quality energy, and what it's and you know I'm not gonna pretend like I know all the health benefits. You know, if we wanted to get Amber on the line, she could probably tell us everything about the micronutrients and the absorption and all this crazy stuff that it does for you. But it's a really innovative product. They don't just sell the green drink, but obviously the green drink is their main product. It's the thing they push the most, but they have a bunch of different supplements like the branched chain amino acids and fish oils and omega 3 supplements and all these other crazy things.
The
Um,
quality is through the roof.
the
Like
quality is through the roof. They coined themselves as the highest quality supplement green drink on the market. You know, and I don't know if there's anything better, but I tell you what, this thing is really good. It's through
it
if you
tastes awesome.
yeah if you go through our personal league, I think it's www.athleticgreens.com/team BJ They're hooking everybody up over there right now. Not only hooking them up if you follow that link, but I think they give you like a 60-day risk-free trial where if you buy it you don't like it, they'll give you your money back.
You will. I cannot. You will like it. I don't even know how you could not. It's
Yep.
just, even if I wasn't train, this has nothing to do with train. If I was not training, I would still take that supplement because it feels awesome to take it. It's like, I mean, I don't even know. I had to call you and ask you. You know what I should do? I should post my text message conversation with you and a couple other people, and or Daniel, and to show how many texts have you got from me saying, I need my greens right now.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. It's just no bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
how many? Like,
It's
for
true.
I'm serious. Like, I get cranky if I don't have them now.
It's true.
Like, it's really, they are awesome. I really, really recommend it. Especially, I mean, if you train, it's even better.
Even
If you don't train,
even
it's
if you
whatever.
don't train, you know, even
Doesn't
if
matter.
you don't
Doesn't
train,
matter.
it helps your digestion. It helps you lose weight. It helps you retain lean muscle. There's a lot of different things. All the information is on the website. George, since it's our first sponsor for BJPen.com radio, we have a little commercial spot for them. Let's go ahead and let's jump off the air real quick while we run this commercial. We'll come right back and we'll get on with Tyron Woodley. Sound good?
That's good. Let's do it.
Hey mate, it's Chris the Kiwi here, athlete, nutritionist, trainer.
and proud co-founder of Athletic Greens. Why does Team BJ Penn love our products so much? Why do they love getting their whole food source nutrition in just 30 seconds a day? That they gave us this free spot on their show to tell you about it. Find out more at athleticgreens.com/Team BJ Penn. That's athleticgreens.com/Team BJ Penn. And I'll see you there.
There it is, Athletic Greens. Our first official sponsor, yeah.
Man, that stuff is awesome, and you just reminded me how much.
You miss it right now?
Yes, please send it my way because I'm dying without it. I really, really, really want it badly.
Yeah. While we wait for Tyron to call in, he should be calling in any minute. Let's talk about some of our other shows. We have Fisticuff Radio on Sundays, and we have what are those other guys called on Monday nights?
I don't even know. What are they called? Are they even important? No, Late Night Cage Side.
Oh yeah, Late Night Cage Side with Phony Tamps and the other dude, Race Chamond or something like that. Yeah, those guys are okay.
If you like that sort of thing, yeah. they're good. The shows are good actually. They get some cool guests also, man.
They get cool guests, yeah. They called us out again last week though. I don't really know what that's about, but they did like some kind of like a sound clip from Sparta, like this is Sparta. They said that we're the varsity team, right? Because you said we're the varsity team, and then they said that they're like we can be the varsity team, but they're the pros or something like that. Like they took it out of the high school realm and said like they're like the NFL and we're like the varsity high school team or something like that.
Oh, that is okay. So basically they dick rode my joke and coined it into their own.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever makes you happy, guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway, yeah. So we do have Tyron Woodley coming up. It'd be interesting to talk to Tyron because he was responding to Tarek.
Yeah, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, Tyron, good fighter, Strikeforce guy, but really, I don't have much of a connection with this guy. It's not like most of the guests that we've had on the show are people that I've been working with for a while, and Tyron never worked with the guy in my life, but when we had Tarek Safadine on last week, he was tweeting like, "Oh yeah, Tarek, whatever. Tarek, the most boring, unmarketable guy. He should fight Damian Maia and blah blah blah." And so when he's tweeting us while we're on the air, I hit him up and I was like, "Dude, let's get you on, speak your piece, see what happens." And so now we have him on. He's fighting Jake Shields coming up, and so I'm sure he has a lot of stuff to say about Jake in that fight. He said when I talked to him, he said doesn't have much to say about Tarek. He said he already did his talking in the cage against Tarek. He beat Tarek, so that's that.
I don't think I think Tarek just I think he just kind of wants a rematch at some point. I'm not sure that it was much. I don't think it was necessarily any like smack talk per se.
Yeah, there wasn't any smack talk. But whatever.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate though from Tyron's stance why he's like, well, I already beat the guy, and he's got a really big fight coming up, and like we were saying earlier, if he can pull this off, I mean, hate to say it, but Tarek Safadine will be a kind of a distant thought at that point because he's going to be looking for pretty big fights. If he can pick off Jake Shields, I mean that's just a huge victory at this point.
It is a huge victory. Jake Shields really needs to win there,
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight for both guys. I mean, Woodley's just athletically just awesome. He picks up things very quickly. He doesn't have the experience is a big thing there. You've got Tyron's got 12 fights maybe. 12 professional fights, and then you've got Shields, he's got probably 35 or 35 plus fights, from different organizations. He's fought overseas. He's fought in the UFC. He's fought in Strikeforce. So he's fought everywhere, and he's
He
fought.
fought for Rumble on the Rock.
That's right. He fought, but and more importantly, are the caliber of opponents. Um, that's where I think Jake's going to be a little more comfortable. He's been in there with the champ. He's been in there with middleweights.
What I thought was interesting, and Jake, I don't know if you saw it, but we posted it on bjpen.com. One of my good friends, Rick Lee, videographer extraordinaire, had a video interview with Mr. Shields, and he just put it out today or maybe last night. And Jake said, I want to knock him out or submit him, and that was kind of like the headline. But in that interview, Jake said, I know that my striking, it looks awkward and is unorthodox, but I hit and I don't get hit too much, And I was like, that's always been my thing. Like, yeah, I'm a Jake Shields fan. I'm a Jake Shields friend. Him and I have been working together for a long time. I think since like the start of my career in this whole craziness, Jake Shields was like one of my number one guys from the very beginning, and he does look really awkward on the feet, But I thought it was interesting that he acknowledged that, that he's unorthodox and awkward. It just looks like he doesn't have rhythm out there,
Yeah, some guys will just never have that, I guess. But the thing is that in mixed martial arts, striking doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be effective, and that has just been proven so many times. There's been, here's the most recent example, and okay, you can say what you will about the background to it, but Alistair Overeem was a K1 heavyweight champion, and he got knocked out by Bigfoot Silva.
Yeah.
Who's never fought a kickboxing match in his life. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, by the way. Okay, so it's not, if we were to sit there and say, hey, let's look at Bigfoot Silva hitting pads. Oh, let's look at Alistair Overeem hitting pads. You watch those and you'll be like, how is that guy going to beat this guy? But that's just not how it works. It's effective striking. If you can land punches, sometimes things are odd. And he has a striking game that is working for whatever he's doing inside the cage. And it is awkward, but it with guys like Jake, you're going to see them want to set up. Use their striking to set up their groundwork. They want to get inside. You got to fight inside. So, fighting submissions in MMA involves fighting inside. You fight a guy like Tyron Woodley, you're expecting a wrestler, but he just proved in his last outing that he's got serious power. So you have to be ready for that. When you're fighting on the inside, whether you're grappling or whether you're striking, you have to be ready for that power. You're fighting on the inside, so you can land those big shots and you can do things, but you're also open to get countered and be hit like that. And with a guy like Woodley, who's proven that he has that kind of power, Jake Shields is going to have to be extra careful getting inside with a guy like that to execute his sort of game plan.
Yeah, here's the thing, like I said earlier, Jake Shields just came out with that interview saying he wants to knock out or submit Tyron in their fight at UFC 161. We have a guy on the line now who I think is probably going to disagree with his prediction. Mr. Woodley, are you there?
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much, man. How's it going?
It's going well, man. Just sunny Florida, the best jiu-jitsu team in the world, getting ready for war.
Yep. And how's everything going over there down in Florida with your camp? You're at ATT, right?
Yeah, man. It's a great camp so far. The room is hot right now, man. It's a lot of top guys in there, a lot of good wrestlers. The energy's really high. It's like 50 or 60 guys in there just smashing each other the other day, and it was really refreshing to see that type of intensity. So for me, I'm gonna spend the rest of the camp out here. By the time June 15th come around, man, I'll be ready to jump after somebody.
Perfect. Let's just jump right into it. What are your thoughts on this fight with Jake Shields? Are you happy with this booking, and are you confident with your ability to walk away as the victor?
Yeah, I think it's an awesome fight. Both styles make fights, and I think it's a good stylistic matchup for myself. I think basically every way to win this fight, in my opinion, is to my advantage. his only one way. I mean, he can talk about, knocking people out. I don't know if he's ever knocked anybody out in his life. I don't know if he's ever dazed anybody in his life with a punch. He might have squared somebody with a guillotine choke or a rear naked choke and made them squeeze their eyes closed, but I don't think he's ever punched anybody and damaged them with a punch. So for me, I think he's trying to psych himself up, and I think he has a really big name. He has a big following. He was champion in Rumble the Rock, Elite XC, Strike Force. He has a lot of names, a lot of followers. He'd be a good high-profile fight for me. I'm not taking him lightly at all. I think he's world-class on the ground. I think guys that have taken him lightly, like Dan Henderson and guys like, Robbie Lawler, I think they were overwhelmed by his pressure and his ability to keep being persistent and aggressive for a takedown. So I'm giving him all the respect, but at the end of the day, I'm not walking out that cage without the win.
So when you look at this fight, and you just kind of broke it down for us a little bit, but I think most people from the outside looking in, they look at the styles, and they at least previously they're saying, well, Tyron, he's awesome athletically, he's a good wrestler. Jake's got good wrestling, he's got good submissions, and they just looked at it like, well, if Tyron tries to tie him up and take him down, we're going to be watching some grappling. But in your last outing, you showed that you have serious knockout power. So if Jake wants to get inside and play with you, he might be playing with a little bit of fire there with some of your power. What do you have to do to execute that game plan and kind of keep him away from playing his game with you?
I mean, the good thing about this fight is that I got 10 ways to win it. He has one. And, he says he's a more experienced fighter. He says he's a better grappler, which he is a better grappler. But he's probably a better swimmer as well. And we're not going in the pool, and I'm not going into his jiu-jitsu game. So for him to make that comment is kind of funny because he's not equal wrestling to me. When he said the wrestling's even. That's like a disrespect. That's like me saying my wrestling's even to an Olympian. He hasn't been a Division I All-American, and if you think he's gonna just take me down with ease and get through knees and uppercuts and punches and angles and athleticness and speed and power, you got another thing coming. And I just plan on beating him like a drum for 15 minutes straight, or if I can finish him. So I don't take him lightly. I know he will be persistent. He will try to bum rush me. He will try to get me against the cage. He's very crafty. I've been watching some of the smaller things, watching video on him today. He has ways of doing it, but if he thinks that I'm going to buy into the fact that he's going to stand up with me and he's going to knock me out, it didn't work. I know what he's going to do. Everybody knows what he's going to do, and I'm planning to stop that, and I'm planning to basically make him pay every time he tries to take me down.
He does have a solid jiu-jitsu game. It's pretty accredited for mixed martial arts and for jiu-jitsu, really, for no-gi jiu-jitsu. When you look at his grappling game, he plays a lot of top position. You don't see him on his back a lot. You're somebody that, at least judging by what you're saying, you're the type of guy that can put him on his back. Is he the same grappler off his back as he is when he's on top?
No, he's a completely different grappler. Really, his success comes from half guard. He usually sweeps guys over. He has a couple tricky sweeps he does that we've been kind of working over and looking over. So if you do take him down, he'll sweep you in a manner which he ends up on half guard on top. And from there, I give him his credit. I don't disrespect the kid. I didn't like this fight. I want the fight because I thought he was some chump off the street. The kid's been a champion in several different organizations, and he fought for a world. But I know what he's really good at. He's good at passing guard. He's good at getting out. He's good at going back to half guard passing. He does basic jiu-jitsu, but he does it in blocks, back and forth, side to side, mount, going for the armbar, going for the triangle. So he wears your butt out, and it's something to be said for him doing that. But from his back, if he doesn't get to half guard, and if he's on his back in a guard, he's going to get punched. And I don't care what kind of black belt you are, when you're getting elbowed in the face and you're getting punched, and somebody's eyes are wide open looking at you like you look like lunch, it's going to be a different game. And I think you'll see that in this fight.
who are the type of guys that you bring in to replicate a Jake Shields, a top-heavy grappler, or top-heavy, not just a wrestler, but jiu-jitsu guy? Who are the type of names you brought in to kind of replicate Jake's game?
I mean, I'm an American top team. It's like 50 black belts there.
Yeah, I mean, cause, like I don't know, I
guys
didn't know, like a lot of times I see big with Jucal and obviously you have Laborio down there.
with
You
your
have a ton of black
there,
belts.
I don't like to dish out the names and give up my little secrets. But usually I try to keep where I'm training at a secret. I try to keep what I'm doing and my game plan. But for this fight, I'm going to just put it out there. I'm submitting Jake Shields. I'm going out there and I'm tapping him out. I'm going to take him down. I'm going to put him against the cage and I'm tapping him out.
Well, you heard it
there first. If I say
first.
that, how many people think that? Huh?
I said you heard it there first, huh?
Is, getting the conditioning down. Being in wrestling shape is different. I kind of miss being in that wrestling shape because that's the best conditioning ever. And this is going to be very similar to a wrestling match. Me doing mostly counter offense and defense, and I still got to have enough steam to try to knock his head off after I stop his shots, after I scramble, after I get back up to my feet, after I get out the cage, after I circle. I got to have enough steam, enough stamina, enough power to finish the deal, even if it's late in the third.
Amazing. Now, let me ask you this. Let's get off the Jake Shields topic just for a minute. You're coming off a really impressive performance over Jay Heron, right? I want to know, where did that come from, Mr. Woodley? Where you went out there and you just completely blasted this dude off his feet. I don't think we have seen that from you before. So walk me through that whole victory. That was your UFC debut. You put a huge statement out there for everybody watching at home, and just walk me through that whole victory and how you felt during, after, and everything.
Man, I just remember my coaches. I got a guy named Arnold Charles, an amazing coach. Really incorporates a lot of speed and power drills where I'm confident, I'm moving forward fast, my hands are heavy. I really and truly believe that I'm fighting a top 3 in the welterweight division of punching power. Wrestling is just my insurance. Guys like Jake Ellenberger, guys like Johnny Hendricks, guys like myself, I think I really possess similar to, if not more power than some of those guys. And when you put that with good wrestling, good technique, good motion, good angles, you present a lot of problems from a lot of guys. So I really wanted to showcase that in my UFC. I wanted to, basically start a different, a fresh breath. This is my UFC debut. I want to let everybody know, put them on notice, make a big statement, not only to everyone, but make a statement to myself. I've been sitting on my gifts. I didn't just learn how to strike. I didn't just learn how to be, explosive. These are things that people have put a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of, basically hours in with me, helping me, teaching me, and believing in me. And I had to believe in myself that fight. And that's what's happening, and that's the new me, and that's what you're going to see every fight.
That was my next question. You just answered it. I was going to say, can we expect to see more of that from you? And I think that's an exciting aspect of your game that you let loose in the UFC cage for the first time, and man, pretty impressive there.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Even in defeat, man. It's funny how people perceive you. Before, I started off my career pretty quickly. I had 5 fights in a year, all by finish. I had a couple of decisions, a couple of close fights, and I went from the submission artist to born wrestling. To somebody that got into a crazy brawl with Nate Marquardt. Even in defeat, I showed people that I'm tough, I can take it, I can dish it, I can stand in the pocket. I ended up on the shot and the stick, but I still showed them, hey, I'm not a one-dimensional fighter. I'm a complete package, and I think that by knocking him out, I've seen that dang on video of me get knocked out so many dang on times. But right after I knocked out Jay Heron, you're really only as good as your last outing. And I got to keep making my last outing be better than the one before, because that's what people really remember you by. That's how you get the next big fight. If I go through Jake Shields in dominant fashion, I'm probably one fight away from a title shot, and I realize that, and that's why I'm taking this fight very seriously.
Now, when you were fighting for Strikeforce, I'm just gonna give our listeners at home maybe a little bit of a history lesson, and I want to get your take on it. It's something that I've always been fascinated with, actually. is you were promised this fight, right? Or they were trying to put together a fight rather between you and Nick Diaz, who was the reigning welterweight champion of Strikeforce at the time. That fight absolutely never came to fruition. He ended up leaving Strikeforce and going to the UFC. You fought Marquardt for the vacant belt. But what were your thoughts on that whole thing with Nick Diaz? Do you think that he was trying to avoid that fight, or do you think that his eye was just set on the bigger prize? Because in my opinion, and I know that I know that I'm going to get probably slammed for this, but in my opinion, I think you were a bad style matchup for Nick, being the wrestler, and that's where his greatest weakness is. So I just want to get your take on that.
I don't think you're gonna get slammed for. I think that's a legitimate observation. But I really, these guys think I want to fight them. They don't want to talk to me. They just look at me and go the other direction. There's nothing against these guys. I respect Nick Diaz. I respect Jake Shields. I'm actually a fan of these guys and what they bring to the table and what they've done for the sport. So there's no disrespect involved. But some people are just bad matchups. Strikeforce. Because when you get in that cage on 15th, it's going to be a whole different story than when he's planning for it and when he's looking on video, because I'm still getting better. And those guys that's as good as Jake's ever going to be. Look at his last 10 fights and tell me the difference. Nothing. He's as best as he's ever going to be. He can go to Thailand and live there and train 24 hours a day, and he's still going to be pretty similar to where he's at. So for me, I'm young enough in the sport where you're going to see things get better each and every fight. So I think those are blessings in disguise. I think when I see Jake on the 15th, I think when I see Nick Diaz down the road, I think those fights are going to go in my favor.
Amazing. What are your thoughts on the whole Strikeforce closure? Are you happy that you guys are getting a shot in the UFC now? And second part of that question is how impressed are you with the Strikeforce fighters and how well that you guys are doing now that you're in the UFC?
Man, the Strikeforce fighters are representing. I'm so excited. I feel sometimes I got to reserve myself. I feel almost like a cheerleader, but it's good to see Pat Healy get a big win when he's been sitting for a year and a half and promised shot after shot. And he pulls up, this on paper, that's not even a great matchup for him, Jim Miller. But he found a way to grind him out. Or, Cormier coming out to win. And Josh Thomson stopping Nate Diaz, who's never been finished. All these guys showing, hey, we ain't no second-rate organization. We hungry. All of our fight shows were off the chain. And that's why UFC wanted to buy Strikeforce. Because in 2010, we had the best year out of any promotion, including them, as far as the fight show. That's when the UFC had a ton of injuries, a ton of people falling out of shows. Were knockouts after knockouts, submission, Dan Henderson, Fedor. We had the best heavyweight division. So it's just really good not only to be in the UFC. Obviously, I would have loved to come over as champ. It would have probably changed the story. But really, to be honest, no matter what the rankings say, in my mind, I'm in a better position than Nate Marquardt and Terrence Safanini. When they wanted somebody to replace and fight Condit, I was one of the top people pushing for that fight. Well, Tarek didn't want the fight. He didn't take the fight. He turned it down. Or Nate Marquardt, even though, he beat me in dominant fashion, he came out, he wanted it more that night. He's off 2 losses in a row. So I'm sitting at a better position right now than both of them. And in the UFC, they understand how to market. They see star power in me. They know how to market each individual fighter differently. And I think that was a missing thing in Strikeforce. they didn't really have the funds to market everybody. They only market their, quote-unquote franchise guys or mostly the heavyweights or people that sold a lot of tickets. But UFC understand, hey, this kid got something. He's well-spoken. His physique looks the part. He goes out there and he fights his butt off. He's an exciting fighter. And he's going to be a problem from Georges St. Pierre and all these other welterweights just because of his wrestling pedigree and his punching power. So I think those things are going to, you're going to see over this next year where I'm going to be looked at a little differently. And, I'm going to be really close to that title.
So, you just brought it up just now, and I asked Tarek this last week, and I know how to ask you the same thing, is that obviously you were an active spectator watching the GSP Nick Diaz fight. What did you think about that fight? Did you take anything away from either guy? You were supposed to fight Diaz like we were talking about earlier. That fight never happened, but it's certainly one that could happen eventually down the line, and that I think the fans would like to see. But the other obvious one is GSP. That has to be somebody that you've been watching for quite a while and envisioning how you match up. What do you think?
I watch GSP. I think that this is my thought. I think GSP has done so much in this sport. He hasn't just beat random guys. They didn't build GSP up. GSP fought the top guys when they were at the top. He fought Matt Hughes when Matt Hughes was at the top. He fought Matt Serra when Matt Serra was at the peak of his career. Everybody he fought, Fitch, he smashed and basically destroyed all these welterweights. So in my mind and my prayer is that he don't get bored with this, that he don't get a taste of Captain America and want to leave the sport, that he don't want to hang it up while he's ahead, because you can't honestly say you're number one if you never measure yourself against number one. He's number one. We can say, we can speculate, and it's all about perspective. I can say, hey, I'm the top, I'm number one, I'm the top welterweight, but he's the top welterweight. He's the number one in the world. He's proved it. He's done it time and time again, and for me, it's an honor, and it's history for me to have an opportunity to measure myself against him to get a chance to fight him. As far as Nick, I think Nick was exposed. I think Carlos Condon and Johnny Hendricks had an amazing fight, but what won the game? He had to resort to his wrestling. And I think for guys like me and guys like Johnny that can punch hard, knock guys out, I think if we need to resort to the wrestling, that's our insurance plan. And I think that, if we use it that way, we'll get more fights, we'll make more money, more people want to see us go, and, it'll be more exciting for the fans.
So the GSP puzzle is kind of like the Anderson Silva puzzle. People are just, and the John Jones puzzle, I guess, for that matter. People are trying to solve it. Like when you look at it as your guy we were just talking about, who's on the cusp of being right there and being ready to fight for that title. When you break down the skills, like how do you beat a guy like GSP? What needs to be done that nobody's done yet?
Man, I've been mentally trying to puzzle that through, but the thing about GSP is he's a gamer. He's an adapter. You watch Mayweather fight. He adapts in every fight. I think GSP is similar to that. So I can watch the way he fought me. The way he fought Nick Diaz. If he was to fight me like he fought Nick Diaz, I believe I would have came out on top of that fight. If he would have fought me like he fought Jake Shields, I believe I would have won that fight. But what if he fights you like he fought Dan Hardy or Carlos Condon? So you really don't know what GSP you're going to get. And I think his game plan is basically slated to win. And each fighter and each person he fights them a tad bit different. Sometimes we might get the occasional where he gets scrutinized about getting decisions, overutilization of his jab, just kind of in and out and just taking down. But if you're not a wrestler and you're not on the delivering end of those takedowns, you know how tired your body gets. Sometimes I don't take people down because I don't want to go through all that scrambling, people trying to stop you, and then you get on top, they grabbing your gloves, pulling your head down, and then you get freaking scrutinized for not being able to create space to land some damaging blows. You might land one or two punches and guys grab your head. It's not 1999 or freaking 1995 when if you mounted somebody when you got in their guard, the fight was over with. It's not those days anymore. People are really respecting this craft. They're really well-rounded. And I think GSP, if he wanted to walk away from the game right now, nobody can say anything. He was a legend. He'll be forever in the history books, and I think that he's done what he needs to do. I just hope that I can, get through Jake Shields in dominant fashion, keep the buzz going on myself, and then fight one of those top 5 guys, and then I'll be right in the picture. And if I can get that done in the next 6 to 8 months, I think I can make a good claim on why me and him should fight.
If you were him and you were in his position, would you take the fight with? Would you want to fight Anderson Silva? Because that seems to be the fight that that people are pushing for, or one of the fights.
You don't have to fight Anderson Silva. Why? He's a welterweight.
Well, he certainly doesn't want. He doesn't have to, but I think that's what people want to see. Is that a fight? Would you do that, or if you were in his shoes, you think, or was you just kind of the point? Yeah, let's just dominate your weight class.
It depends on what he's doing it for. If he wants to basically be considered the greatest of all pound for pound, and he wants to say, you know what, they say Anderson is the greatest, I'm gonna go and fight him. Okay? Is he gonna fight John Jones after that? Is he gonna just keep going up against the pound for pound guys? I think it's for me personally, if I'm a welterweight, I'm fighting that welterweight, and I think they're gonna make a ridiculous payday. I think they're gonna cash out, in this fight. So for me right now, shit, I'll fight Anderson Silva tomorrow because I know what they're gonna pay for it. If they making a big money payout like that, but he's not in that situation. George St. Pierre's already a millionaire. He has a comfortable life. He's not married. Don't have any kids. He's probably achieved everything he can in the sport. He really has to make a choice because what he's going to do is he's either going to finish out on top or he got to make a decision. I want to keep going at this because you know what's behind what he just did? It's a whole new generation. So guys like me, Jake Ellenberger, and Hendricks. Intense wrestlers with heavy hands, hungry, want that title, and we'll go after him. We're not going to back up. We're going to come forward and come after him. And I think he has to make a choice if he want to go through and fight 4 more guys with that mentality. And if he does, then that's great for me. I would love it. It would be an honor for me to compete against him. But if he doesn't, you can't take nothing away from the kid.
Amazing. Now, Tyron, before we let you go, I want you, even though you already said it, but there's probably some listeners who are tuning in. You know how radio goes, so people tune in and out and so on and so forth. Give us your prediction one more time on the Jake Shields fight. You kind of gave me chills when you said it. I'm already imagining the headlines now, okay? But you said you were going to submit them. Give us your prediction how that fight goes down, and then we're going to let you go, brother.
I predict me frustrating Jake Shields. I predict him trying to touch my leg, and I predict me abusing him and basically giving him a whooping, just like a kid that did something their parents told him not to. And I'm going to do that for 15 minutes, and if you give me any gap, any wins that he want to get taken out there, I'm going to take him out. So that's the game plan. I'm trying to finish him off with the hands. If not, I plan on winning every single round.
There it is. All right, Mr. Woodley. Well, thank you very much for joining us on BJPenn.com radio. Best of luck to you at UFC 161 against Jake Shields.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Have a good night.
All right, bye.
That's going to be an awesome fight, man.
Hey, you know what? Mr. Woodley has a mouthpiece on him. He don't hold back, does he?
Hey, Jake started it in his defense.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, you know.
You know what I'm saying?
I
saw the Jake interview, and he didn't say anything bad, but he responded saying, I think he's full of shit, and I'm going to knock him out.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. Like, how lucky are we as MMA fans to be able to get on the phone with these guys and talk to them and kind of provoke that kind of discussion. I just think it's fascinating. I'm not picking sides on that fight. I've already established my relationship with Jake, but yeah, that was a good interview. Mr. Woodley definitely is gonna bring the heat, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good fight, and it really is an important fight for both guys. It's so funny how Joe Silva makes these fights, and it puts, at least from my perspective, on the outside looking in, I'm like, man, there's a lot of pressure on Jake to win. Man, that's a big fight for Tyron too. He's got to, he's got to pull something off here to really advance his career, or it could be a big setback. So it's like a very important fight for both guys. It seems like every fight at this point is important at that level.
Yeah.
But it really is a big fight because Jake has, the spotlight's kind of come off of him. He made his way to the UFC. People expected a lot of big things. He fought for the title. He fought in different he's fought in different weight classes there. And people expected some bigger things, and I think he's kind of fallen off the radar a little bit just because, and people have forgotten how good he is and what he's done simply because of the most recent outings. And Woodley, on the contrast, has, coming off a huge knockout, and people are talking about that. And so it's a big fight in that respect because where does Jake go if he loses? What happens?
I mean, the thing. Here's the thing I think that people need to remember, and for the longest time, I know that Jake has a lot of haters out there, right? They call his style boring or whatever, But how many pro fights does he have? He has a lot. I don't know how many.
35 to 40.
Yeah, I'm not a statistician over here. I don't claim to be, but he has a lot of freaking fights. And like Tyron said, he's won titles in 7 organizations globally. So if Jake Shields never wins another fight for the rest of his life, he's cool. I mean, he's already been there, done that. The guy, he's had his career. He's done well.
He has. I think that that's the UFC belt is one that he's really really wanted throughout his career, especially in the last
every fighter wants that.
Everybody does, but from his of course every fighter does it, but not every fighter's won championships in every organization like he has. I mean, he's literally walked into every organization and won their belt, and this is the one where he hasn't done that, and really, he's 2-1 in his UFC career, so he's got like he's got some stuff to make up for, and really the first fight with Campman, man, that was close. I mean, a lot of people thought Campman won that fight, so he really has to put on a good performance here. He not only has to win, but he has to put on a hell of a performance here. He really needs to win, and the same thing for Tyron. If he wants to advance his career and move on to the next step, he really needs to beat Jake Shields. I don't know whether the UFC has him ranked at 170 pounds right now. I really don't even know. The UFC rankings are so screwy that.
Well, I don't think they do. I mean, a first round KO victory over Tyron doesn't get you in the top 10, but a win over Jake Shields, that very well might get you into the top 10, right?
Is Jake in the UFC's top 10? That's what I was curious of.
I don't know.
Their top 10 is, sometimes when I see the rankings, I'm like, huh?
I mean, you got to look at it. What were Jake's last performances? His last fight at welterweight was against Ellenberger, right? He lost that fight. He went up to middleweight, fought Ed Herman, beat Ed Herman in a not very exciting fight, then got popped for something we don't know, some kind of banned substance. He's been on suspension. So, if you look at his last 12 to 18 months, they haven't been that great, So, is he ranked? I mean, maybe he should be in like a hypothetical world, maybe, but like based off his past outings, I don't think Jake should be ranked right now.
Yeah, I couldn't see how he would be. I mean, I think he's got a victory over. I mean, Akiyama's a great opponent, but he didn't look good. He hasn't looked. He's an exciting fighter to watch. But he isn't a perennial contender, and people weren't talking about him fighting for a title. It's a tough division, and it's especially tough now. And you've got all these young lions sitting kind of, they're kind of nipping at the heels of these guys who have been contenders in that division for a while, the GSPs and the Condits and things like that. And you've got guys like Tarek and Woodley, who we've had on the last few weeks, who are right there trying to get into that spot. They're trying to take that spot. And he's one of those guys that has been at one point, and I specifically remember this, and this is back when I think pretty much me, you, and Jake were doing pretty much everything on the site. But I think even at one point we were having discussions about our own rankings when we would sit there and discuss this. We had him ranked in 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
Because he had just beaten Dan Henderson at 185, and he's like, well, I'm fighting at 170 now. And the guys at 170 currently in that division, a couple of them he had beaten too.
Yeah. Carlos Condit, he's beat Yushin Okami, he beat Dan Henderson. I mean, just those 3 names right there, they're not his only victories, you know what I mean? But, I mean, those 3 names, guys...
Centex, Mike Pyle. I mean, come on. There is a lot of names there. He's beat a lot of really good guys. And, I agree. I agree with you. It's just what can he... The style of Tyron, is his head together, like, what's the layoff going to be like? There's a lot of questions. Back of 185 to 170, if he's jumping weight classes again, it's a big fight for both guys, but I think there's more pressure on Jake.
Gotta be more pressure on Jake.
So we'll see how that turns out. We still have...
Yeah, we do, Mr. Thomson.
We still have Josh, and that's when we're saving. And I don't want to say we're saving the best for last, but I'm sure Josh is going to have some interesting responses for Nate Diaz's comments. So.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I'm sure he's going to rebut. He never. He's always really honest. He says what's on his mind, And I thought it was really funny, and I was saying earlier that the way he kind of sold us before, going into the Nate Diaz fight was that he was, oh, well, I haven't had the best camp, and, I don't know, and he's really tough, and he was very, very humble and realistic and honest about things, and if that was, he put on a hell of a performance for somebody who had a half-ass camp.
Yeah.
So,
he did. And that's
exactly.
That's the whole thing. When we were talking to Josh after the fight, I was kind of like, dude, did you find like the happy medium there? Because usually you come in overtrained, right? Like the guy's like a training fanatic. I mean, he'll eat, sleep, and shit in the gym, and he comes in and he gets injured and he fights injured, and his fight, he had a 4-week training camp, and he looked phenomenal. So, it worked out in his favor.
I think stylistically he fits in really well in that division. Actually, when you look at the guys at the top of the division, they've got similar skill sets, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling base, solid striking. See that like with Ben. I kind of see that with a lot of the other guys in the division, and he fits in there really, really nicely. Are we going to see him fight Gilbert again? Maybe.
That's what I want to see.
The 4th time, huh?
I do want to see it. I thought Josh won the last fight, and it's whatever, The judges freaking suck in this game, right? So, you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. That's what everybody says when those types of things happen. But I mean, I still think Josh won. It was a very close fight. I really think he won the fight, though. I think that he should be able to get that back. I think there's a great storyline there. The guys have already fought 3 times. Gilbert definitely won the 2nd fight. Josh definitely won the 1st fight. And the 3rd fight was so close. I mean, they need another one. That's my opinion. I don't know. I know in talking to Caesar and talking to Gil that, they weren't really interested in that fight. But I would still like to see it.
Yeah, I think it's one that probably has to happen at some point. Maybe it doesn't have to happen, because what if Gilbert drops another one to somebody and Josh wins another one, and then that's it. That's all you have to do is get the 2 guys moving one spot in opposite directions. One up, one goes up, one goes down, one, and that's it. You won't see them meet for a long time. And as I said before, man, me personally, I kind of want to see the matchups of the Strikeforce guys, and I don't want to even call them Strikeforce guys anymore. They're UFC guys, but the guys that came from Strikeforce, I kind of want to see them matched up against the UFC guys. I think they're just interesting matchups that we haven't seen or talked about. Gilbert and Ben was a really interesting fight because it's one that we wasn't even really on the radar, and we got to see it, and I think that we'll get to see that with a lot of other fights. How does Gray match up with Gilbert? How does Gilbert match up with a Pettis that's going to come back to 55 because he says it's temporary? These are really interesting fights. Is Edgar completely committed to 45, or will he take a fight at 55? There's a lot of interesting fights that could happen.
That's true. That's true. I think you make a good point. I don't want to see the Strikeforce guys fight the Strikeforce guys outside of a Thomson versus Gilbert Melendez 4 fight. Like I've been saying, I've been campaigning for that for a while now. But I think it's a disservice to the fans. Like, let's say if the UFC puts Pat Healy in there with a Josh Thompson, because man, we could have seen that fight in Strikeforce. We kind of want to see the whole mix-up of these guys fighting, the two organizations fighting each other, fighting it out. There's a lot of good matchups there, and I find all that very interesting. On the line right now, we do have Josh Thompson, fresh out of surgery too, huh, Mr. Thompson? What's going on, bro?
Yeah, I just got out this afternoon, and then I had my knee scoped, I had a torn meniscus, so that's cleaned up, and then I had some bone fragments in my elbow, so I got those taken out as well. So I did double service today. So.
Man, and those surgeries went well, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, everything feels good. I'm already, with the knee is just a quick scope, so I can walk around and stuff already. So, but my elbow's a little tender, so we'll see how long that one takes. There's just not as much tissue, around the elbow. So, you kind of got to be careful with it for the first, week or two. But I can take it out of the sling, the sling and everything probably about tomorrow after my checkup. And so, both were really minor things. Just going to open up some more. I feel healthy now, so I just want to make sure that all the little things that are nagging me and stuff get taken care of before they get worse.
Makes sense. The reason why we brought you on the show today, obviously, we could almost call the show the Josh Thompson Show, right, or whatever, because we have you on so much, and we're not trying to burn you out on us over here, but
I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it at all.
Right on. Well, the thing is we had you on the show right after your win over Nate Diaz, and then the very next day on the show we had Nate Diaz on for an hour. Nate actually called us, or excuse me, he was texting me while we were on the air with you, winning his own spot. So we gave him a spot the next day, and I was like, all right, we had Nate, we gave him an hour, we gave Josh like 20 to 30 minutes, but then who can predict what Nate Diaz was going to come out and say? Nobody. I didn't know that. I didn't expect that. The guy went crazy. He went off about the fight. He was really kind of kind of made a big deal. We got like 50,000 listens on that thing because it just went viral so fast.
Yeah.
So I want to know, did you?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. It's kind of surprising because a lot of people tell me when he does interviews, he doesn't really talk all that much. So you guys got to capitalize on the moment when you could.
Yeah.
So it's great. I'm glad he's talking about it. But I didn't get a chance to read or listen to a lot of it or read a lot of it. People were sending me tidbits of what he said, and I think he had said something about I make curly noises when I fight, and that the fight was stopped too early. So I just kind of I don't know. It is what it is. The fight's over. It's done, and obviously he's upset, and but like I said, I came into the UFC like you guys are just talking about right now, to fight guys in the UFC, to fight guys that, will give me a chance to get into the UFC title, and so, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind fighting Gilbert again because I feel like the last fight was unsettled. But, outside of Gil, I've already beat Pat Healy, I've already beat KJ Noons, those guys that I've already fought, I could have fought in Strikeforce, but I'm in the UFC again, and so I'm kind of looking forward to fighting all the guys that everyone's talked about me fighting, and so that's great. That's kind of, and I want to fight the guys that will give me the fast way to the title, and so, if that's Gil, then that's Gil. If it's not, then I want to fight the guys in the UFC.
That's right. That's the way I kind of look at it too, because we always try to play matchmaker. I'm sure a lot of people do at home too, just the regular casual fans. Everybody wants to see fighter A versus fighter B. But in the instance of the Strikeforce guys coming over, like, Yeah, we don't want to. I don't really care for seeing you guys fighting each other. You're in the UFC now. I want to see what the matchups are like with Strikeforce versus UFC. I
Yeah.
always find that real intriguing, except for the Gilbert Melendez fight. I'm always pushing for that fight.
It's the only hard part I think the UFC is gonna have is like because Khabib, he trains with us at AKA, and Gray Maynard trains with me at AKA. So there's the three of us that are all at AKA, and from what I understand, all three of us are in the top 10. So it's gonna make it kind of hard, I think down the road because I think Khabib's already turned the fight down with me, and obviously I'm not really interested in fighting Gray since that's kind of like the next matchup, as far as going into the title shot. So I'm into fighting. I think there's plenty of matchups. So with the 155 division being so stacked, you've got Pettis, you got Cerrone, you got DJ Miller. You got plenty of guys, and like I said, so there's plenty of great matchups I think in the 55 division, that I'd love to see, so that's cool.
So Josh, what do you think Nate was talking about, though, in the interview? Because I'll just read you the quote since you haven't heard it. I'll read it right. He said specifically, "The last guy fought Josh Thomson. He was scared shitless when I was fighting him. It's unbelievable how scared he was in there. He was running for his life. He was making women noises when I was fighting him. He was making bitch-ass lady sounds, and that's not bullshit. I'm not here to talk shit on him. This is reality. He was making woman sounds like he was running out of the clinch. I hit him in the face, and then he goes on to imitate the sounds you were making, and so on and so forth."
Oh, that's cool. I wish I would have heard that part. I wish I would have heard the point where he made the same noises. That was cool.
I could try to reenact.
Thanks for Nate, man. So, I don't know what honestly, I don't know what he's talking about. I had a game plan. The game plan was definitely stay outside of his range. I did. I stood outside of his range, and I used my kicks to kind of counteract his length and his punches, other than that, I would use my speed to get in and get out. The only noises, that I recall in the fight was when I kneed him a couple of times. He was, kind of knocked the wind out of him against the fence, and he was going like he was holding his breath. So, if anyone was making noises, it was him, so other than that, there was obviously there was the finish, and maybe it was the crowd that he thought, was me making noises in the crowd when I finished him. But other than that, there's no other noises that I recall. So that's the best I can say. Like I said, I respect Nate, so trying to talk trash on him. I just think, he's probably a little upset, and he's never been finished before. Not like that, anyways. And and so I think he's just a little upset about the situation. I think it's probably best that, we just get back in the gym and just get busy again, and so just work on getting better. That's the best we can do.
A few days removed, and he was already, alluding to saying that he wanted a rematch, or talking about rematches, and saying that there's no way you would ever take a rematch. We can ask you. You're scared shitless. There's no way you would do it. The UFC wouldn't do it either, because, so. What do you think about when you hear something? Because it was a pretty sound victory. I don't think anybody watching at home, and there was a lot of people watching. I don't think anybody was thinking like, "Wow, we would really need to see this again." But
yeah, I don't think so either. But whatever, dude. Like I said, I've never turned a fight down. If the UFC says, "Hey, we want to fight Nate again," then I'll fight Nate again. But I'm not going to go out there and ask for a rematch against a guy that I didn't just ink out a victory on it, that I finished. It just sounds kind of pointless, and hey, it is what it is, and if he wants to fight again, later on down the road basically, I guess when he works his way back up, I don't want to sound, douchey about it, but that's kind of what it is. It's like I'm looking for one step closer to getting to the title. I asked for that when I came into the UFC, and Joe Silva and Dana and them, they gave me that chance, and it was against him, and I capitalized on that chance, and now I got to move on to somebody else who's going to give me that title shot. So whoever they're going to match me up against, it's like I'm not going to go backwards to try and go forward. I'm not taking one step or two steps backward to try and go, one step forward. It's not going to happen. So, I mean, that being said, like I said, I'm just focused on who's next for me and getting healthy again and trying to get back in there and fighting for the title. That's the only thing I really, like I felt like back in 2004, it really eluded me was the title shot when I felt like I was actually the number one guy in the world, and then, I felt like it slipped out of my hands. I didn't get a chance to fight for it, given the circumstances with the UFC and all that. So then now that I'm here, it's right here in my fingertips again. And, I'm not going to get caught up in all this banter and all the trash talk and everything. I'm pretty focused on this right now. I'm focused on making sure that my body is good, my body's healthy, and making sure that I get a title shot because, if I get that title, man, it's something different. It's something different, something that no one can ever take away from me. I was a Strikeforce title holder, once you're a champion, you're a champion, dude. You can never, you can walk through the halls and everyone can always call you a champion. But it's just something in my mind that makes me feel good, knowing that I got that one chance that I never got before. It's a whole different step, it's something that your family can, not just your family, but like, you can take care of your family a lot better. You can do all the things you want to do for your family, It's like there's things in my life that I want to do, with my family and progress into doing more things. And this is a step, to winning that title is a big step for me and my family.
Amazing. Josh, how long are you going to be rehabbing these latest surgeries? I mean, when can we expect you to get back to training full time and getting back in the cage?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. They told me that obviously I'm already up walking around, so the knee's not really an issue. I talked to Greg. Greg had it done last year, and he's all, yeah, within 3 weeks. He's like, I was walking, running. He's like, I was lifting a little bit, riding the bike, doing everything. He's like, so, I'm already walking around, right now. So it's not that big. The knee is just, for the first probably for the first week, you gotta be real careful with it, and then just start doing some therapy on it, lifting a little bit on it, getting a little bit more strength, The elbow is what that my doctor was concerned about. He said probably about 2 to 3 weeks, you probably don't want to punch with it, because it's the impact that's going to hurt it the most. He's like, but moving it around and using it, putting it on the table, things like that is not a problem. He's like, it's just a matter of the straight on punching, punching a bag, punching someone's head. He's like, you probably don't want to do that for, probably about at least 3 weeks, maybe a month. So, other than that, hey, I've trained before where I haven't been able to use kicks or not being able to use my right hand, things like that. So, I'll probably be back training hopefully by the end of next week or the week after, just not full go, but just making sure that, I can get some flow in, maybe kicking the bag instead or, just, hitting light mitts, whatever it is, just working on my jab maybe instead, so, because of my right arm. So, just being careful, that's all, just getting in there and just mixing it up a little.
All right, right on. Well, we won't keep you too long, man. I want to let you get your rest in. I really just wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about that Nate Diaz interview. I hate leaving one side of the story, untold. So I kind of felt like we owed that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is this is the one thing I was gonna say is he's interested in rematching me, but I think this is what one thing that he needs to remember. Before the fight even happened, he was complaining about, after weighing, about how he's going up to 170. So he couldn't even make weight when we fought the first time, and I was sitting there watching, I was watching it anyways. And Nate knows this. Nate, you didn't, I'm gonna say this directly to him. Nate, you didn't make the weight. So how are you gonna make the weight again when we fight again? And that's the thing that's disturbing. We all let it slide because it was a huge fight, it's a big deal, and but you didn't make the weight and you still lost. So unless you plan on fighting me at 170, then I'm not really interested. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the title shot. Looking forward to getting up there and and getting the chance of the title. That's it. And like I said, if I have to go through him again to do it, then so be it. But it's like maybe you want to start watching what you eat. Maybe you want to start doing that to take care of yourself because you couldn't make the weight the first time. Now, that was something I was going to keep to myself. But you want to start talking trash about me and doing these things, knowing that I beat you fair and square, then then I guess next time we'll take 20% of your purse, if you don't make weight. It was an issue that I could have brought up and made a big deal about, but I didn't do it because that's how type of person I am. But I could have made a big fuss about it and taken it. I could have rubbed some salt in the wound and took 20% of your purse after you lost. So, but I didn't. So that's just the kind of person I am. I moved on, and I suggest you do the same thing.
Oh, there it is. All right, Mr. Thompson. We'll let it close with that, brother.
All right, brother. Take it easy, man. Thanks for having me on again.
All right, thank you. We'll give you at least a month off this time, okay? You won't hear from me for about a month, bro.
I only wanted to give him a week.
If you want to do it again next week, just let me know.
Yeah, I only wanted to give you a few days off. I didn't want to give a month. Having a
yeah.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
I got kind of a busy weekend, so let's hit it up again next week then. All right, boys.
Right on. Later.
Later, man. Take it easy, guys. Bye.
Bye. All right, George.
Hey, turnaround's fair play. You got to give him the chance to rebut those comments.
I mean,
it was
that's
an hour.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. We had Josh on the night before, had Nate Diaz the next day, and frickin' whatever, dude. We had to let Josh. It's only the right thing to do. We can't show favoritism over here, So we had to give Josh his chance. And I think he just addressed Nate Diaz for like a good couple minutes there. Just said, I didn't even want to ask him about the you didn't even make weight. I could have taken your purse. I wasn't even going to say anything and all that stuff. What happened there? Do you know? Did he make weight?
Yeah.
Was there something funny
No. Because the weight was off when he stepped onto the scale.
Oh yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, and I remember specifically, that happens a lot. And what I look for is when the person steps on the scale and they miss weight. If you're getting on for 155 and you get on and that shit's 157, I look for when they announce when Joe Rogan is like 157 as he's making the announcements. I look over to the fighter, to the opponent's eyes to see what he thinks when that person didn't make weight. And Josh, he was indifferent. He was just like, whatever, I'm fighting on Fox. It's a big fight, and I'm fighting. That's it. And he's right. He doesn't make a big deal about it. If there's one guy, and I don't want to say there's one guy because I think the epitome of just showing up to fight is BJ. And I don't think how that can be disputed, but that's the king of just showing up and fighting whoever the fuck ever. But Josh does the same thing. He complain. He doesn't piss and moan. He, like you said, he fights through injury and whatever other circumstances. And this was just another one. And he did let it go, but looks like he aired it out now. So
yeah, he aired it out. I figured that we might be able to get some good things from Josh just because, he's one of these guys, and I'm gonna kind of classify him and stereotype him. He might kind of look like a pretty boy, but he's one of these guys that's like a true fighter, came up fighting in the streets, getting in trouble, you know what I mean? So if you're that type of dude and you're not just like an athlete, working on your athletic pedigree for freaking MMA,
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you have that kind of fighting spirit, then you're gonna get down with some trash talk, and that's just the way it is, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna let somebody there's like that whole pride thing where you're not gonna let somebody talk trash. You're not and let that go. BJ's the same way. Somebody starts talking shit about BJ, he's gonna open his mouth. He's gonna talk right back. So.
Yeah, you respond accordingly, and I really think that Josh took the high road most of the way through, even through most of this short little talk we had, because we only talked to him for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but he took the high road most of the way through there until the very end when he's like, you know what, here's the fact of the matter, and I'm not trying to classify anything what Josh said just now as shit talking, because it wasn't. It was actually simple facts.
Right. Well, he's a cool guy. What's the coolest thing about that was he literally, bro, when he called in, just woke up from his surgery. You know what I mean? Like, he had surgery today. He was all doped up. He was knocked out. He woke up, hopped on the phone, talked to us. So that was nice of him.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, and best wishes to him. Hope recover fast, man. Can't wait to see you back in there.
Yes, sir. All right, brother. Let's get this show on the road or off the road.
One more time, man, please. Athletic Greens, send me the green. I'll be a lot happier tomorrow. If I can get my morning nutrients, if I can get my superfood in the morning, really. Please.
Yeah,
send it my way.
It's really good stuff, for sure. I'm glad that they sponsor us. Thank you, Athletic Greens, for being our first official sponsor. Yeah. We appreciate that very much.
Follow them on Twitter and on Facebook at Athletic Greens. I don't have all the science behind it, and if you guys really want to hear a quick breakdown of it, we can get Amber on the air and she'll break every ingredient down for you, like science. Like, because that's what I mean. Literally, that's I did. I asked you, and you asked her. You're like, no, she knows, and and she'll understand it. But there is a lot of science behind it, or you can take our suggestion and just go to their Facebook and post on their Facebook or on their Twitter, and they'll answer whatever you want. Those guys are mad scientists. They're geniuses. They know what's up.
Yep.
So another good week, man. So.
Not bad.
We
got through it.
Exactly. It's no big thing, man. And cool intro.
Cool
Score
intro.
one for us.
Next week, I'm just going to go ahead and announce it right now. I think we have Anthony Pettis, like I said earlier. We'll have to confirm that he's still in Brazil right now, doing the press tour for his fight with Jose Aldo and all that stuff. But he should be back in time, and everything should be a go for next Wednesday with Mr. Pettis. He's another person we want to talk to about about the Nate Diaz remarks, and somebody else who I'm extremely excited to have on the show, who's kind of like, this is like out of left field, man. This is like nobody's heard from him in forever. Everybody wants to know what's going on with him. It's the Muscle Shark, Sean Shirk, next week.
Yeah.
So
nice.
That should be a pretty good guess. That should be a pretty good guess. This guy, he's like traveling the world. I don't know if anybody knows what Sean Shirk's traveling schedule. But he's like in Alaska right now, and obviously that's the United States. He's still he's still in America, but he hasn't been in Alaska. Like he's been in South America. I don't know what he's been doing, but he's been all over the frickin' globe. He says he has to keep busy. Him and I have been in touch for a while now, and he's finally going to be home next week, and he's agreed to do the show on Wednesday. So it'll be interesting to have him on. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, got a lot of catching up to do with him. Yeah, awesome show though, man, and it'll be cool. You guys stay tuned and make sure to follow us on Twitter at bjpenn.com radio, at gmatthewsmma, at LATL Pedro, and yeah, if you have any requests about who you want us to get a guest or any guests, be sure to tweet it.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Later.